Greetings, people, and wizards, and dwarves, and hobbits, and elves. Today we are taking a look at the Folio Society edition of The Hobbit, written of course by J.R.R. Tolkien and beautifully illustrated by Eric Fraser, with cover designs by Francis Mosley. In 1979, Folio Society commissioned Eric Fraser to illustrate The Hobbit 2 years after his successful work on their 1977 edition of The Lord of the Rings. Those illustrations were based on the sketches from the Queen Margrethe II of Denmark, which I covered on this channel before, but for The Hobbit he was left to develop the illustrations from scratch. Now this is great news for me, since I absolutely love his style, although he still paid homage to the preceding artwork, so that the visual similarities with The Lord of the Rings create a nice continuation. And this shared language extended all the way to the 1997 Francis Mosley Silmarillion. The book includes an illustration for every chapter, as well as 2 stunning frontispieces. Although Fraser used pen and ink, the artwork quite successfully emulates the woodcut technique, which, mingled with his peculiar style, creates a remarkable blend of modern and medieval art, also present in Tolkien's own illustrations. There's even a piece directly inspired by one of Tolkien's compositions, namely the depiction of Rivendell, beautifully reproduced in black and white from Tolkien's watercolor painting. And there is an even more direct parallel for the last illustration, depicting Bag End, taken from Tolkien's frontispiece for The Hobbit. By the way, check out this cool sequence of illustrations depicting the dwarves bursting out of the mountain, and how the similar composition makes it look like a simple 2-frame animation. This was one of my favorite scenes in the book when I first read it. Suddenly there was a great shout, and from the gate came a trumpet call. They had forgotten Thorin. Part of the wall, moved by levers, fell outward with a crash into the pool. Out leapt the king under the mountain, and his companions followed him. Hood and cloak were gone. They were in shining armor, and red light leapt from their eyes. In the gloom the great dwarf gleamed like gold in a dying fire. Thorin wielded his axe with mighty strokes, and nothing seemed to harm him. To me, elves and men, to me, O my kinsfolk, he cried, and his voice shook like a horn in the valley. The first Folio Society edition of The Hobbit with these illustrations was published in 1979, and this particular version of it came out in 1997, along with similar editions of The Lord of the Rings in green and the Silmarillion in blue, all adorned with the cover designs by Francis Mosley, who also illustrated the Silmarillion that very year. These books turned out to be quite popular, and they had many printings, printed in multiple countries with varying degrees of production quality. People especially complained about the later ones, printed in China, with reports of fuzzy text, poorly applied gold foil, and so on. But I did hear the recent print runs from Germany are not too bad. From what I know, the early printings were the only ones made in the UK, and this is one of them. However, I feel they are still substandard compared to other Folio Society books. My main pet peeve being the tight binding, which is thankfully not present in the 1990 Lord of the Rings edition I reviewed, and there is the issue of frail blocking on the covers, which sometimes rubs off. Keep in mind that these issues are present in most mass-produced books, however I am taking into account the standards set by other Folio Society releases, as well as the hefty asking price, which in this case is mainly justified by the beauty and exclusivity of the artwork. As with most editions of The Hobbit, the 2 maps are reproduced on the end papers in the traditional red and black, on lovely, slightly textured cream paper. The covers are bound in a material described as vegetable parchment, a durable kind of waxy paper quite pleasing to the touch, similar to the elephant hide used in the 1990 Lord of the Rings I mentioned. The cover is blocked in gold, black and green, surprisingly depicting the dragon Smaug in a color other than the usual red. Well, that will be all for now. Soon we will wrap up this series of Tolkien's Folio Society videos with the Silmarillion, but you can expect to see many more interesting Tolkien editions after that. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.